God damn it. Is that a siren? Maybe they finally caught me. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the newly branded Podcast of Doom. I am your host, Joseph, known in some circles as Mecha Joseph. This is an exciting new take on my old podcast, the Doom to Fail podcast. I unfortunately had a falling out with my former co-host, Caleb. He was a bit of a rougarou, a bit of a ne'er-do-well. He's a product of his own design. He's caught up in a kangaroo court and all that, as he told me. And we found that we could no longer work with each other. So I decided to blaze out on my own across the seas of the internet. And I wanted to keep my original name, the Doom to Fail podcast, but in the time between now and when I departed Caleb, another couple swooped down, much like a vulture swoops down and picks a juicy sandwich or salmon, that is, from a brave, mighty bear and steals it up and flies off to their den to eat it. Another podcast came in and stole the name Doom to Fail. But they're in for a surprise because I own the LLC. I will say this about their podcast, though. If you ever want to listen to a podcast for two people who kind of sound the same and agree on everything and just sit around agreeing with each other for 3 hours, go right ahead and listen to their podcast. You probably enjoy it. So I'm here with my new co-host. Fuck. I'm here with my new co-host. We're going in a new direction. I've been watching a lot of Disney movies lately, how they'll make like Little Mermaid and Snow White or whatever, and they're like, let's make this character, like, let's make Aladdin a female. That's basically what I've done. I've gotten rid of Caleb, and I've replaced him with Ophamae. Everybody say hi to Ophamae. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, now that we're here. Now that we're finally started, and we can actually do a podcast instead of hearing your opinions on the Carnival Cruise Line that you went on. That might have to be an episode in of itself. Ophamae had quite the experience on a cruise.
Yeah, we'll get into that in its own
time.
time.
It sounded kind of like, I don't know, Mad Max situation. Is this
a little bit?
Yeah, wild.
Meets like Dune or something.
What?
Yeah.
Mad Max meets what?
Dune.
Dune?
Dune.
What is that thing with that big fat guy that's like floating around and like?
I don't know. It's got like Tiffany Chalamet or whatever in it.
Willy Wonka?
Yeah, the new one.
Yeah, I'm aware. So, Ophamae, tell everybody what this podcast is about. Like, what's the theme? Like, what do we do here?
We go into a topic, very random, and then we search all angles of that topic. It could be bananas and how they're actually spider eggs, or how nothing actually tastes like a banana anymore and it's a fake banana flavor. But we go
Thank you for spoiling that episode. What we do is we pick a random topic every week. It could be anything from the Roswell conspiracy to biomolecular energy, and we discuss and investigate this in only a way we can. Mm-hmm. This week, we're going to talk about a very risky, controversial topic. We're going to talk about Sasquatch. And I just find this is singular. There's nobody on the internet or TV, anybody who's ever really dug into Sasquatch or discussed it. It's this completely untapped market. There's no reality shows or any. God, this is a shitty joke. Anyways.
No, it was good.
I don't know. Didn't we have some news thing where you're going? Yes. So we had, before we get started, we like to try a new segment on this show where Ophamae will present to us the news of the day. This is the part of the show where Ophamae will regale us on some current event or topic or something of interest.
So the news that I've recently been sweeping.
Yeah.
With these Maui fires.
The what?
Maui fires over in Lahaina.
Where's that?
It's a very high real estate area. A lot of the locals
where is this?
This is in Maui in Hawaii.
This is in Hawaii?
Yes.
Were you in Hawaii?
No. But it's going on all over the internet at the moment.
Okay, yes.
So there's a little background to this. The developers and people who are trying to, I guess, kind of go into Hawaii and make it more of a resort-ish area, you know how they like to do.
Yeah.
The locals were holding out. They were doing really good until recently. There was a fire where it has been reported by the locals that about one fire truck engine showed up, and when they went to go tap into the water system to try and control the fire, the water was turned off.
Why would that happen?
Well, exactly. And that's more like tinfoil hat conspiracy. But
the rich people did it.
The rich people did it.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is the same island that Jeff Bezos' home is at. This is the same island that Oprah Winfrey just bought like
I'm aware of that,
acres of.
Yeah.
So, the locals, they were trying to put out the fire themselves when they realized
that they
using
weren't... like bucket system with that line?
Bucket system. I think one of them was using like they were taking like their hoses from their house and trying to spray their grass just to keep it from spreading.
Did they do the Kamehameha?
Not sure what that is, but they had...
Wait. You don't know what the Kamehameha is?
No.
Holy shit. Okay, so there was a king in Hawaii named King Kamehameha.
Okay.
And then Dragon Ball Z.
What?
Goku.
Uh-huh.
Kamehameha!
Oh my god.
You know what that is?
Now I do, yeah. No, they didn't Kamehameha.
Kamehameha wave.
I'm not a big Dragon Ball Z fan. I just know of the main characters.
But you know what the Kamehameha is?
Is it the... He puts his hand out?
People can't see what the fuck you're doing.
I'm describing what I'm doing.
Yes, it's the Kamehameha wave.
No.
Do you know what the death beam is?
No.
Do you know what death is?
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Do you know what a beam is?
Yeah.
It's that.
I don't think so.
Oh my god.
I don't think that's
what about
started
Vegeta?
it.
What do you watch, Naruto?
Unfortunately.
Jesus, you are Caleb. Caleb had Naruto shit tattooed all over him.
Well, I ain't got no tattoos.
That's the first time I met him, he was wearing a shirt with his face photoshopped into a Naruto character.
Really?
Yeah.
You can make those?
He made it himself. He made it like on paint. He was real proud of it. I'm serious. This is how I met the fucker. He went to this Dollar General, and he was wearing a shirt with his face on it. And
Do you
I'm
know
like,
what character it was?
It was his like insert Mary Seuss himself. Like he made a character for the show. It had that eyeball thing.
Red or purple?
It was red.
Okay.
It had like the
shotgun.
dots. The shotgun. Yeah, because I would call it a shotgun. And he was like wearing the shirt, and I'm like this guy, he's gonna be a star. He's gonna be a wonderful podcast host. And I lured him back. He was great. He was a great post until he got held up in that kangaroo court.
Yeah, very.
Anyways, you're talking about Hawaiians. They're like on
Right.
fire, like they're running around.
So this fire very recently.
What happened to the pineapples?
Oh, I'm sure they're fine.
Is that
Pineapples are resilient, but they had to run. Unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives.
Hawaii's an island.
Yeah.
They'd have nowhere to go.
Basically, they were just like, this is the sad part. I'm gonna get into it. So these people are running. The traffic gets held up. So there are people that are getting out of their cars and literally jumping into the ocean. It's like maybe 5 foot like away from the road that they were in. So people were just hopping into the ocean to escape the fire. There was reports of people who stayed in their cars because they had elderly people with them or pets with them, and they just thought, let's go out as one. And 2 days later, this is where we are now caught up. They just recently brought a ship of tourists in. And remember, these people are still getting over the tragedy of the fire. Also, like, there was no school that day, so the kids were at home. They're, like, identifying child remains right now and trying to figure out who's gone. And a boat just shows up and drops tourists off in the same beach that people were jumping into to escape the fire, where there's still dead bodies floating around in that ocean.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're just, like, hanging out.
And they're just hanging out. They're just, like, taking surf lessons or renting jet skis. Literally over thousands of dead bodies. And the people right now, I just recently went on TikTok an hour ago, and there are people that are getting eviction notices from the mayor who still have homes. The homes that didn't burn down are getting now eviction notices.
Why?
The mayor said that it was an unstable community to live in.
I bet.
I think what's happening is the rich people are trying to buy up that land.
They probably went in with their flamethrowers and their Hollywood special effects. And
well, there has been some
Which
videos
one would
with
you
Hollywood
rather
special
die?
effects.
How would you rather die?
Drown.
Drown or burn to death?
Drown.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, I used to be a whitewater raft guide. It's just something I'm used to.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm mentally more prepared to
I think
drown.
it depends on my mood. Like, if I'm, like, kind of sleepy, I probably drown because there's not much effort. But if you're on fire, it's like, it's exciting. Like, you can run around and scream and...
roll around.
Well, just, like, you could, like, grab, like, a tree and or, like, a branch and run around, kind of like Sparkler.
Yeah. For me...
Like, it's more exciting. Like, you would... I think, like, if I were, like, around people, I'd want to burn to death because it, like... be more memorable. They're like, remember that guy that was running around as like, he looked like Ghost Rider, like he had like a skull and he was
like the Buddhist monk in Vietnam who was staging a protest.
There's nothing funny about that. This
I didn't say it was funny. I'm just saying you would make a statement and go up on a Killing in the Name album.
Listen, when we stay on brand, we don't bring up the Buddhist monk who lit himself on fire.
I'm so sorry, that wasn't professional.
Yeah, it was.
Well, yeah, that's where we're up to date on that news flash. Right now, they're evicting the people of Lahaina.
So where did that cruise you went on go?
That went to the Bahamas.
That didn't go anywhere near Hawaii?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you had nothing to do with this.
No, personally, I would never go to Hawaii in the first place.
Why?
The spiders...
Yeah, there's no spiders in the Bahamas.
I'm sure there is, but not as big as they have them in Hawaii. The same reason I wouldn't go to Australia.
Oh, the Australia's cursed as fuck.
Yeah. Oh my god.
There's no reason anyone should go to Australia. Just like fucking platypus. I mean, that's enough to kill you. You know that? Aren't they poisonous or something? Venomous?
Something like that. Yeah, and they also sweat milk.
Ugh!
Yeah.
Jesus fuck.
They're the only mammals that lay eggs, though.
What the fuck? Yeah, Australia's fucked. This has been Ophamae News. You have heard it here first, folks. Hawaii is on fire. There's nothing anyone could do about it but throw pitiful buckets of moisture trying to stop the inferno. That was pretty good. I'm impressed. You actually were, like, organized.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't be. But...
let's see next time.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sorry if I'm a little off today. I haven't been right the last few days. I saw something that's really bothered me. Do you believe in good and evil?
To an extent.
I think I saw what I would call, like, the face of evil.
Did you?
Absolute evil. I was in a Dollar General hanging out late at night, like I usually do. And I was just trying to find, they have these things, they're Monster Energy. I think they're called Hunch Punch. It's got like an eagle on it.
It's tickling my brain.
It's the only Monster I'll drink. I don't like Monsters. I just like these because it tastes like high sea, bubbly.
Yeah, it's got the pirate ship on it.
It used to be bubbly. And I was rummaging around looking for that because there's some other fucker who goes in there and takes them all. They never have them. And I was looking for one. There's a few people in there because it's Dollar General. I mean, it's the middle of nowhere here. It's like basically a nightclub. It's where people go to hang out. And I saw this old woman. You know how they have like the candy things, like the impulse purchase, like any Dollar General will have them by the register.
Near the register.
Yeah. And this Dollar General, it had like the U-scan set up, so the cashier wasn't there. So I was up there more or less alone, like knelt over, looking for a drink I wanted. And I saw this old lady come up with her cart. She was dressed decently. She didn't look homeless, as far as I could tell. She had kind of like a raincoat looking thing on, kind of like a wolf raincoat or whatever. And she goes up to the Reese cups. I'm like, adjacent from her, like maybe 7 feet, 8 feet. She goes to the Reese cups. She looked around. Didn't look at me, but she looked around. She picked up one of the Reese cups into her claw-like hand. She started smushing it, and manipulating it to a putty in her hand.
Was it in a bag, or was it a singular Reese cup?
No, it was the 2-pack of Reese cups.
Okay.
And she was looking around. She was smiling. Her teeth spread back over her lips into a voracious sneer as she did this. She then, after she had done it for a few seconds, took it with her other hand and straightened it back out the best she could. And then
put it right back.
Licked it.
Oh.
She licked it, deep-throated this fucking Reese cup pack. This old woman with her fucking gaudy-ass gold earrings slathered this thing in her spit.
Okay, go ahead. I'm getting chills.
She then proceeds to just set it right back on the shelf.
Oh, my God.
The satisfied look on her face.
This dirty bitch.
It was around that time where I just stood up and I looked at her, and she saw me, and there's just that look of like stunned surprise.
Mm-hmm. That I've been caught.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you dirty goddamn whore.
Mm-hmm.
Disgusting fucking bitch.
Please tell me you actually said this
Yes.
to her. Yes.
I said, what the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? You've got some serious fucking problems if this is the kind of shit you're doing. Mm-hmm. The middle of a Dollar General, middle of the night. What has led you to this path? What has happened to you to make you do this?
What was her excuse?
She didn't say a word. She didn't look at me, just went to the U-scan, and I think she was a demon.
A demon?
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
What else would have caused that? I mean,
she's definitely an agent of chaos.
I didn't believe in evil until I saw that. Anyways, what are we going to talk about? Today, I want to read. This may be kind of unusual.
Okay.
So, I am a huge fan of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But I know he's not real. So it's taken me many years to understand this. I am a fan of people who like Bigfoot because they amuse me. I think it's great.
Well, you're about to be real amused.
I know. You believe in Bigfoot, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it'd be silly if I didn't believe in all of the cryptids.
Have you seen Bigfoot?
Never, no. And I think a lot of the videos are fake on the internet.
So if you haven't seen him and you think the videos are fake, why do you think he's real?
I think he could have been real. And there might be some out there that are old and probably still rummaging around in the woods of Montana or in the Rockies. Hell, there's a lot of caves around here. He could be hiding out in a cave. But I don't think it's what we're thinking it is. I think it's maybe because, we've been through so many extinction events. I think that if anything, it could be something left over.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
Are you a scientist?
I like to dabble, but I'm not a professional.
So no? These are yes or no questions.
No.
Do you know the average age of a gorilla?
No.
30. Do you know the cause of death in most great apes, including captivity?
Other apes?
Tooth infections.
Really?
Same with humans. I'm sorry. That same as humans back in the day when there was no dentistry.
Okay.
Yeah, because they can't remove their tooth, so it gets into their bones and their blood, the infection, and kills them. Yeah. It's kind of strange to think about. Do you think Bigfoot's a great ape?
No.
Well, what is Bigfoot?
Well, again, I'm not a scientist, but we used to have great big sloths in America. We used to have mammoths. I think it's maybe he's not an ape. Maybe he's
you think Bigfoot's a sloth?
No, maybe because it's sorry, I'm saying so much. Apes, there's orangutans, baboons, apes. There's different.
So
branches.
You think he's a
I think he's so far removed from what apes we know them as today, but maybe there was a common.
So not a remnant of Gigantopithecus.
No.
You don't know what that is, I bet.
Vaguely.
You think he's a subhuman race, is what you're saying.
Or he could have been a sub-ape.
So
like, ape is, for lack of a better word.
You have made a lot of mistakes because you keep calling him.
Uh-huh.
We don't know if it's a he or not.
Well, we don't know if there's
That's
only
very misogynistic to assume that Bigfoot is a he. It's an it. And honestly, the only one we have really documented is the Patterson, where there's these big old, like, giant titties on it.
Yeah.
So it should be a she.
Well, I
That's
tend
not on
to
brand.
see a hairy, smelly thing and assign it male, kind of like dogs. Like, even if the dog is a girl,
this
in my
is
brain,
so
a dog
off-brand.
is a boy and a cat's a girl.
Okay.
Bigfoot to me is a he.
Okay. Yeah. Why does Bigfoot, so you're, but you said you're like, Bigfoot has survived. You're like, I think a few of them have survived.
I think so.
So what did they survive? Like, how old do you think they get?
I think they survived humans.
So let me back up.
Uh-huh.
I have studied people that believe in Bigfoot in the same manner they have studied the evidence of Sasquatch existing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a background in psychology. I've looked at all this. So there's different levels of believing in Sasquatch. There are people that are like, well, it could be some kind of ape. There are people that are like, oh, it could be some kind of missing link human thing. There are people that believe he's an angel. Not kidding, a Nephilim. There are people that think he's a demon. There are people that think he's an alien. There are people who think he's a vanguard for aliens. There are people who think he's a government experiment. Mm-hmm. There's people that believe all this stuff. And there are people that think Bigfoot is very old, that a Sasquatch could be very, very old, like hundreds of years old. So what I'm asking you is, how old do you think they get? Because you said a couple of them, they used to be prominent, they used to be around, and then now there's only a few of them left.
I think probably about as old as you say, like a ape gets.
So in order
like around 30
to
years
sustain
or
a
40.
breeding population, there'd have to be millions of them.
I'm sure there was at some point.
How many are there now? Do you think there's like more?
Well, probably like less than 100.
Less than 100.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like as we keep expanding our population and building into more remote areas because we're running out of room, like we run into them a lot more, and they keep, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a great migration. They have to run and find more alienated areas, like places that humans aren't in yet. And maybe they run into each other, breed, have a couple more. I'm probably going to give them, like, they have, like, half a litter of puppies, basically. Like, they could have 3 to 4 of them at the same time. Because most species, they have a lot of kids or babies versions of themselves. But I do think that if they are out there, that we're getting really close to getting them completely off the face of the earth. But I am one of those who... I don't look up Bigfoot.
You're not obsessed with him.
I'm not obsessed with him. I think, there's a possibility he's real. Because if I'm going to believe in, like, skinwalkers, I should also keep my mind open for the belief of Bigfoot.
What is that? Isn't that like the deer man?
It could. It definitely could turn into a not deer. Skinwalkers, though, more kind of, if you've ever heard of the rake. It's
a rake? I know what a rake is.
Yeah, they kind of look like a rake.
They look like what?
But a little taller. Rake. Yeah.
Describe a rake to me.
Rakes are about 5 feet to 6 feet. They're very pale, gangly, very skinny, gangly.
A rake is a tool used to...
Oh, I'm talking about the cryptid rake.
I have no idea what that is.
Okay.
That was not even funny how fucked up. I'm like, what? There's like a humanoid rake running around. No. The fuck is she talking about?
No. Okay. You must have not went through a creepypasta phase. If any of our viewers...
No, I'm a man of science. I'm a learner.
They'll
I
know what a
study
rake
things.
is. Skinwalkers are taller. You
know what? I'll just look up a picture. I don't want to listen to you talk any more than I have to.
Okay.
This fucking guy. I know what this thing is.
Yeah. Are you looking at the one where he's crouched?
Yeah, he's yeah.
Yeah, well,
it's very fake. I mean, this is...
It totally, that's a totally fake picture.
You believe in this guy?
I believe that... So...
This is from a video game.
No, yeah. But... Humans tend to, when we storytell or when we come up with things like that, like... yes, it could be a way to entertain ourselves, but I think it also is that there's a little truth in it. Like, I think that if you do believe in, like, witch doctors or witches in general, they can curse people.
I want there
could be something out there that causes people, like vampires, like how that all started. There could be some kind of evil demonic power out there in the world that can turn people into this hungry, mindless creature.
Do you know about, you know what happens to a corpse as it starts to decay? The first thing that happens is that the fingers start to peel, the flesh of the fingers peel back and the bones jut out like claws. And the lips recede and tighten. Mm-hmm. And blood drips from the mouth. Mm-hmm. And it gets gaunt and white.
Yeah.
Let's get in a time machine. Let's go back to the Middle Ages. Oh my God. My cow died. Holy shit. What the fuck did this? I don't know. There's some evil shit around. Mm. It's probably a vampire. You heard of those? Yeah. Well, who just died? That fucking crazy whore that lived on the hill.
Agatha, yes.
Yeah, Agatha died. She's probably the vampire. You get these stupid peasants. They dig up this corpse and they don't know what happens when they go in the ground. They don't know. They've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
They look at that. They're not men of science like me. Mm-hmm. They look at this corpse and the fingernails and stuff, and they're like, that's a vampire. And they get this corpse out and they, I don't know, like whip it with holly and put a stake in its heart or some.
Well,
that's what a vampire is. That's what vampires is.
They recently just found a vampire grave.
Yeah, that's what because they're stupid. Because they're dumb. It's kind of like how people think Bigfoot's real. They're stupid.
I mean, yeah, totally. Like,
they don't know what a corpse looks like. There was no one there to study it.
I was under the impression they buried them and then put the vampire measures in the same moment.
I was generalizing. Yeah, I'm sure that they did stuff. That's the common idea is what people thought vampires was. Like they like look at they're like, what the fuck is that?
And of course, like it could be that. Like nothing in this world can be real, and humans really truly can be the only thing on this planet with any sentience. But
I want Bigfoot to be real. I want these things to be real.
I know. You're skeptical.
I want to have powers. I was telling my friend Allie the other day, like I want powers like you. She's a witch. She tells me this. She tells me there's like a moon coming. There's a full moon.
Yeah.
Something's gonna happen. I'm like, wow. How can I get in the ground floor of this? Where can I be? Can I pay you to give me, like, I want there to be Bigfoots and aliens and all these things. I want there to be, but I gotta see it.
Yeah.
Have you heard of pareidolia?
No.
It's a psychological phenomenon. It's psychological. It's proven. It's a real thing. They believe it comes from ancestral memories.
Okay.
Humans will put faces onto things that have no faces. It's like where you go out in the woods at night and you see trees with the knots in the trees that look like eyes.
Yeah.
And you can line them up in your head and see eyes. You see faces. If you look at the dungeon-like basement, the ceiling, if you look at these little dots, you see eyebrows, right? Mm-hmm. It's us to recognize other eyes and stuff in the woods. And there's a theory that a lot of what people are seeing when they see Sasquatch is they are placing a human face on a bear or even a moose. There's creatures, something called the Dover Demon, the Jersey Devil. These were all around where moose were present. Anytime there's a cryptid sighting, there's an animal who is very similar, who occupies the same ecosystem as the said cryptid in that area.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me. So we're here in the great, beautiful Smokies. A lot of people see Bigfoot. There's a large population of brown bear here.
Yeah.
And when the human mind, if you put the human mind, you take it, you fuck with it. You're put under extreme pressure. You wouldn't believe the things people see. Lack of sleep, intoxication. I could take a needle, and they used to do this. It's not allowed anymore. Not with the pop psychology today, but you could poke parts of the brain, make people react the way you want them to. And all of that, that concept. I have held a human brain in my hand during school, you know. Mm-hmm. And you look at it in those ridges, and all of that, it's a computer. This is Windows. Windows sucks. Windows malfunctions. You want to tell me that the brain, you can't rely on it, is what I'm saying. People rely on, like, I saw Bigfoot. I see him out there. I heard this. Yeah. People rely on their own senses too much. I think it's mass hysteria.
It could be. I'm kind of in the same wheelhouse as you. I'd like to think that these things are real. Not because I want powers or anything, but more because I have like a child at heart kind of mentality.
Yeah. We're a true believer.
Yeah. But I'm also like enough of a skeptic that if I see a random video online, I'm like, okay, this is blurry. I'm sure something has been done to this. I'm not going to just take everything I see as like the truth. I can filter myself.
I would like to say, well, I didn't interrupt you.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say that, like, with how many people have, like, cameras nowadays, it is interesting how we haven't had a really good look at Bigfoot or any of the other cryptids. You hear stuff, like, you could go to the woods and record sound, but...
Well, there's a lot of people who now are saying that Sasquatch is supernatural and has the ability to cloak himself like Predator. And I'm not not joking. This is, I've been to Bigfoot conference. Mm-hmm. I've heard people talk about him in length. I've heard famous Roger Moorhead, people who like Bigfoot will know him. David Paulides, I've heard these people talk about Bigfoot in great length. Mm-hmm. And this is what some of them have said. That he is an interdimensional creature that can cloak himself. Yeah, you can't see Ophamae, but she's giving a very shocking, because you're more of the casual. Like, you're like, yeah, he could be out there in them hills. I wanted to say, before we get too far into this, we will probably look at some Bigfoot researchers and evidence here on this channel. Not today. Today, we're going to get into a second, but I want to regale you with two of my favorite Bigfoot stories that really started the craze in America. Ooh, but before we get started, actually Canada and America, but before we get started, people have probably noticed by now, you have a pretty thick accent. You were from the South. Yeah. You're from Tennessee, Appalachia area. Mm-hmm. Do you know anyone, you like, one thing that amazes me about you, something I lack and I'm quite jealous of, you have this giant network of, like, family members and like Peepaw and Meemaw, like these, like, you have people, like this big network of people around you. Yeah. Has anyone you know ever seen a Sasquatch or had an experience like that?
No.
Never?
None of them.
There's been Womp Cats.
There's been Womp Cats, but there's no Bigfoot.
We don't have the time to talk about Womp Cats today. Yeah. But that's a whole... Fuck. Stay tuned. Anyways, oh, Jesus Christ. I can't believe I'm doing this. Anyways,
now, they haven't said that they've spotted Bigfoot or anything. I feel like growing up, it seemed like Bigfoot was more in the Rockies or in that side of the country.
Yes, he was in the Pacific Northwest, to be precise.
A lot of people, I mean, I remember very distinctly, like, if someone was talking about Sasquatch, they were talking about their trip to Montana or Alaska, somewhere over there in the great wilderness. Yep. Here, I thought it would be more plausible if he would be in Appalachia due to the cave systems that we do have, because there's a lot of places to hide out in those limestone caves.
Why'd he be in a cave?
Just trying to keep... I mean, like, just imagine, like, a helicopter going over your house. Like, it's annoying. He doesn't want to have any contact. Because most people, if it is real, it probably has had interactions with humans going to a campsite and then the human reacting territorially and getting ready to attack it. So, and humans most of the time will protect their stuff. You know, it's like, hey, this is my stuff. Shh, don't touch it. Yeah. So I'm sure it's if it does exist, had a lot of bad experiences with us as a race collectively. So I would feel like racist. It would hide. Yeah. Bigfoot is a humanist.
I believe it.
But kind of what you said about it possibly being one of the black bears. Like, black bears are in caves all the time too.
Almost for a very small second, I thought you were going to say, like you said black bear. I thought you were going to say black people.
No.
Like Bigfoot's black people. Like,
no.
There's just a big, tall black, like Shaquille O'Neal's.
No, I made sure to say black bear because earlier you said brown bear, but we don't really have that many
I'm not from
brown
here.
bears.
I don't know what you have out there.
I mean, sure, they get like tan in the summer.
There could be Sasquatch out there for all I know.
There could be skinwalkers.
Skinwalkers. Okay. Are those like Mystique?
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm talking about? Like Jennifer?
No, they don't change their outward appearance. Not too much, no. They tend to, if they do anything, it's kind of like Men in Black, like that roach alien that had the skin over his exoskeleton. You remember that?
That. There's a giant bug running around the woods.
Not the bug, but kind of like how his skin didn't fit and he just did not fit in society.
That's a fat person. Their skin doesn't fit.
Joseph.
That's Caleb.
Okay.
And they don't fit into society.
Take your digs, I guess. Have your hot takes. But what I'm saying is that this thing will look like a regular dude, but it'll be standing in the middle of the woods. You could Google hundreds of photos and videos of this, but it'll sound like the one I saw recently. This guy was on his farm, he was on his horse, and all of a sudden you just hear, "Hey, hey!" Same tone every time, same inflection every time, but it just doesn't sound right. It sounds like if someone had gotten a raven and told it to say "hey." It just doesn't sound right. How do you know it's just not a raven then? That's the point. Yeah, it could be, but I have an imagination. But this guy, he's like filming and stuff. The horse at one point gets spooked. That's why I don't think it was a raven, because if it's a raven mocking, like the horse is going to be like, oh, whatever, it's just a bird.
Horses, okay,
they get spooked easy.
Horses
I
are
agree.
stupid. I mean, they don't know anything. They're just like animals. They're like dogs. My dog is stupid. He doesn't understand things. He doesn't know like what language is.
Yeah.
So if it heard that noise, it wouldn't understand like, oh, that's it. It's like, what the hell is that? Is that John? No, it's like, oh, a noise.
Yeah.
They're not intelligent.
But
Ophamae.
I agree. Animals don't tend to know what's going on, especially horses. They scare easy.
My dog never knows what's going on.
But this guy, we're
gods to him.
Right.
I control every facet of his life. Where he poops, when he eats. I put eye drops in his eyes. He knows none of what this is. He lives this miserable pug existence. Constant torture and torment.
Can't breathe.
Sometimes I just go up and tickle him. He has no idea. He lays on his back and growls. His life is a circus. And I am the ringleader.
You're the ringleader. You call the shots?
Yeah.
Are you like a firecracker? Do you make it hot?
What's up with you and fire and...
no, I'm quoting Britney Spears, but...
Fire and heat. Why Britney Spears? That has nothing to do with this conversation. Circus. You're talking about Hawaii, you've got this glint in your eye, and the corpses, I'd rather drown than burn, and... It's been 40 minutes. We haven't even started the main topic.
Yeah.
Because you just are talking about skin people
Let me get it back to it, and then we can start. And then you can read me the stories.
If the fat people are out there in the woods. Don't start with that.
But
yelling at people, yelling hey in the middle of the night.
The horse goes to turn around because it got spooked. And as he's turning around, he gets a clear shot of this guy just standing out there.
What was he doing?
Completely naked. That's the point. What is he doing out there? So even if this isn't this creature, that's still weird that this guy is in this other dude's farm, just completely naked in the field, where the goats are. The goats are all the way towards the fence, away from this thing.
Not the goats.
Not the goats, yeah, but possibly the goats. The guy starts running, and the horse just takes off automatically. Like, the guy didn't have to tell the horse to do fuck all. It took off. You hear kind of like grass and stuff, like the sounds of people stomping through grass, but it's still just saying, hey, like the same way, hey.
We have to see this video.
But it sounds like a recording. It doesn't sound real.
We'll find this video. We'll post it somewhere on our social media so we can all examine this. Maybe we'll talk about it on another episode.
Oh, yeah, I'll try to find it.
Is Bigfoot associated with these skinwalkers?
I think he's in the same amount of infamy as those cryptids, yes.
Do you know about the Dog Man?
Kind of. I mean, I haven't researched it myself, but I know it exists. I would
love to talk to you about Dogman.
Oh.
The Dogman people have become my new favorite thing.
Yeah?
Dogmen are unhinged. A Dogman, like Bigfoot, you hear Bigfoot stories. Bigfoot will just walk by your car. Bigfoot will just come and snatch up Meemaw's chicken, run into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Dogman, he's metal. The Dogman will fucking break into your house, delete your Xbox files, and like tie your cat to a ceiling fan and leave.
Oh my god.
I was talking to a man, Stacy Haslett. He has a YouTube channel. I'm good friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to talk to him. And I'm convinced he does not have schizophrenia.
Mm.
He doesn't. Just want to make that clear.
Okay.
Stacy, I love you. Stacy told me that his neighbor sees Dogman. And that Dogman, when he had his newborn son, he had a son. His son was like 1 year old. I don't fucking know anything about how old he was, but he's a little baby. The Dogman was sneaking into his son's room at night and teaching his son to say Dogman. So, his son's first word was, Dogman. The guy went into the room, picked up his son, said, who am I? Like, you say daddy? Daddy. No, the kid went, Dogman. That's the kind of shit Dogman does. He's like the fucking, like, Joker. Like, he just comes up with these crazy schemes.
Just to fuck with
He's
people.
also a big werewolf Van Helsing looking thing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a werewolf.
He might... I have more faith in Dogman than I do in Bigfoot at this moment.
Well, in a fight, Dogman would win. The people think Bigfoot would win, but that's just like, I want Iron Man and Captain America to beat Thanos. Like, they couldn't beat Thanos.
Technically, they did.
No, that wasn't the real Thanos. That was a fake time travel version. I know all this because of Caleb. Caleb was obsessed with Marvel.
Mm.
He also was a strong believer in the Dogman.
Mm.
What the fuck are we talking about? Do you want to hear these Bigfoot stories?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite forms of media is old stories talking about cryptids, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Yeti, UFOs, in search of monsters and mysteries, things like that. And I find it very funny because nowadays, it's like our society in general, there's not a lot of mystery anymore. The world is very small. Everyone has a HD camera in their pocket. Like, you can get to anywhere in the world within, days. Like, it's not difficult.
Yeah.
Back then, the world was much more mysterious. America was much more mysterious. A lot of the established lore of Sasquatch had not been established.
Mm-hmm.
And people were still testing things. I've heard Sasquatch stories that you wouldn't believe from this time era. Funny stuff.
What time are we talking about?
I would even say, 1850 to 1960, like that, 1970, 100 years.
Yeah.
I think this story comes from 1960s, 50s, but it might have happened a little bit earlier. This is the Albert Ostman story, or as the newspaper called it, the Albert Ostman abducted story, or I was abducted by Sasquatch. This is a story about a Canadian prospector who went to go live with a family of Bigfoot for a few days. Yeah, you're giving me a look. How can this be possible?
Yeah.
It's almost like you made it up.
I don't think I've heard this, so...
It's actually quite famous. A lot of people in the Sasquatch community will...
recount it.
Do you know what the term cherry picking is?
Yeah, I grew up
cherry
Baptist.
Cherry picking arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep that in your mind.
Okay.
I'm going to read the story. I might paraphrase it a little bit. I want you also to remember this was written back in the day. It's a little bit dated in the way it talks. I have always followed logging and construction work. This time I worked over 1 year at construction job and thought a good vacation was in order. One is supposed to be the head of Toba Inlet. Why not look for this mine and... What? I'm completely derailed. What the fuck? Is this a spelling error? Okay. It completely doesn't make sense. Hold on.
Okay. While you read over it, I'll be right back.
Okay. Test.
Test.
All right. We're sorry about that. I started reading this article and I realized this guy that wrote it is fucking stupid. It just sounds like shit.
Yeah.
I've heard this story. I've never actually read it.
Yeah.
Like, I could tell you what it's about, but it's like... Okay, so... I'm going to jump into it. I'm not going to read this first part. So basically, there's this guy, Albert Ostman. He's a worker. He's like doing logging and construction stuff in Canada. So does it even say where in Canada? Does he provide this nugget of information? The Toba Inlet.
Okay.
I kind of know where that is, actually, believe it or not. And he wanted to go on a little vacation, and he wanted to look for a mine. And he took a Union steamship boat to Lund, BC, British Columbia, that is. From there, he hired an old Indian to take me to the Toba Inlet. And the story is written in I, so he's telling it in first person. I, just to let you know.
Okay.
This old Indian was a very talkative old gentleman. He told stories about gold brought out by a white man from this lost mine. This white man was a very heavy drinker, spent his money freely in saloons. But he had no trouble getting more money. He would be away a few days, then come back with a bag of gold. But one time he went to his mine and never came back. Some people said a Sasquatch had killed him. At the time, I had never heard of Sasquatch, so I asked what kind of an animal he called a Sasquatch. The Indian said, "They have hair all over their bodies, but they are not animals. They are people, big people living in the mountains. My uncle saw the tracks of one that were 2 feet long." Yeah, remember that what I'm telling you where they hadn't established things about Sasquatch, so now they're saying their feet are 2 feet long. Okay. Think about that.
Yeah.
One old Indian saw one that was over 8 feet tall. Do you have any idea the amount of protein, calories, sustenance an 8-foot tall creature would have to eat to survive, let alone an entire population of them?
I mean, I'm assuming a lot, but...
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a lot.
Enough for it to come out more often than it should.
Maybe they hibernate. Maybe that's where they're at this whole time, down in the caves. I told the Indian I didn't believe in those old fables about mountain giants. It must have been some thousands of years ago, but not today's. Not today. We arrived at the head of the inlet at 4 p.m. I made camp at the mouth of a creek. The Indian had supper for me, blah, blah, blah. Next morning, he took his rifle with him, went camping. And so he's hanging out in the mountains.
And it's just him and this one guy.
Yes, the one guy. No, the one guy left him, it looks like.
Okay.
And he's got a good account of all the things he's brought with him. To skip ahead a bit, he goes out into the woods. He's hanging out. He's brought his supplies. He went to like a convenience store. These are like the parts of the movie that you fast forward over. Mm-hmm. And he's out there, and he went out one morning and he came back and he realized that his pack sack had been emptied out. And I'll pick up from there. Someone had turned the sack upside down. It was hanging on the pole because they hang them up so animals can't get them. Like by the shoulder straps. He noticed a half-a-pound package of prunes was missing. Also, my pancake flour was missing, but my salt bag was not touched. Porkies always looked for salt. So what the fuck's a porky? Pig?
I don't know.
That's an interesting...
Yeah.
Maybe that's a cryptid. Maybe it's like
Maybe he's talking about boars?
Yeah, maybe. He decided it was something else than a porky. He looked for tracks but found none. And he did not think it was a bear. So he climbed up on a big rock where he had a good view of the camp, but he could see nothing. He was hoping it would be a porky so he could have a big porky stew. It's got to be a pig, right?
It has to.
Like Porky Pig.
Yeah.
He's a pig, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, probably a boar.
I don't know. So these similar visits went on for 3 nights. And on the 4th night, he said it was cloudy and it looked like it was going to rain. He took a special notice of how everything was arranged. Oh, this was happening when he was asleep. Oh, I guess that's why you don't skip things. He didn't undress, and he only took off his shoes, put them at the bottom of the sleeping bag. So he got in a sleeping bag fully dressed. He put his prospecting pick in a cypress tree so he could reach it from his bed, and he also put the rifle alongside him in the sleeping bag. So he's sleeping with his gun with it fully dressed. And he intended to stay awake all night to find out who the visitor was, but then he fell asleep. And he was awakened by something picking him up. I was half asleep, and at first, I did not remember where I was. As I began to get my wits together, I remembered I was on a prospecting trip, and I was in my sleeping bag. My first thoughts was, it must have been a snowslide, but there was no snow around my camp. Then, it felt like I was tossed on a horseback, but I could feel whoever it was walking. I tried to reason out what kind of animal this could be. I tried to get at my sheath knife and cut my way out, but I was almost in a sitting position, and the knife was under me. I could not get a hold of it, but the rifle was in front of me. I had a good hold on it, and I had no intention of letting go. At times, I could feel my pack sack touching me, and I could feel the cans in the sack touching my back. He must have put those in his sleeping bag with him. Very convenient.
Well, if he assumed it was an animal, he's probably trying to hide his stores.
I guess so. After what seemed like an hour, I could feel that we were going up a steep hill. I could feel myself rise for every step. What was carrying me was breathing hard and sometimes gave a slight cough. Now I knew this must have been one of the Sasquatch mountain giants the Indian had told me about. I was in a very uncomfortable position, unable to move. I was sitting up on my feet, and one of my boots in the bottom of the bag was crossways, with the hobnail sole up against my foot. It hurt terribly. Their old shoes, they used to put like spikes on them so they could get traction. Yeah. Now we have Nikes.
Okay, so he's in the fucking sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Kind of like an egg at the bottom. He's getting scrunched up. Okay.
And this fucker just picked him up.
And his homie in the Sasquatch, I guess, has him like a knapsack.
Yeah.
Like a hobo bag.
Yeah, he just thought it had food in it because he'd been stealing the food.
Yeah, okay.
And he's being quiet. I actually had thought, because you made that like off-colored comment about Sasquatch just being black people.
No, I did not.
What if this was kind of like an African freed slave, and they had just been living out there, and they saw a white dude, and they're like, let's see how it feels. Like, let's give him a taste and just steal him from his home and make him our slave.
Let's go to the end of the story before we make any bold
assumptions. I know the end of the story.
Uh-huh.
Anyways. Like, remember what I said about staying on brand? We need to stay on topic. You've already rambled for 40 minutes, or 10 minutes into the story. People don't have the patience to watch the entire podcast about nothing.
Yeah.
We are in competition with things like the Doomed to Fail podcast.
Oh, of course, yeah. We can't do that.
Yeah. Direct competition. Now he's going up a hill. Ah, God. Now he was going up a hill again. It did not hurt me so bad. I tried to estimate distance and directions. As near as I could guess, we were about 3 hours traveling. I had no idea where we started, and as I was asleep when he picked me up. When you say something, some motherfucker just picks you up and carries you off. Why don't you be like, put me down?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the first thing you would do? Put me down?
Or at least move. Maybe shoot through
This is Albert Ostman we're talking about. He's a fucking ninja.
Yeah. I would shoot with the gun that I have my hold of through the sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Whatever's carrying me, obviously, it has ill intent.
If I had a sack and it had like candy in it, what do dwarfs, like little people, like to eat? Like Little Debbie's?
I don't know.
Like, have you ever had like a snacky cake?
Yeah, of course. Oat milk cream pies.
And I had a backpack, and a little person got to my backpack, and he had a gun. Like, he was like strapped like a piece. And he started getting into like shenanigans, like a raccoon, like getting into my stuff. And I picked him up. I didn't know he was in there. I'm like, damn, these little bibbies are heavy. Mm-hmm. And he put that gun out like, hey, let me out. And started shooting that gun. I would drop that bag and I would run.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He could have gotten out of this easily.
Yeah.
But he let it happen.
Do you think it was like fight or flight just malfunctioned and he went into shock?
I think he's stupid. Especially what happened, well...
We'll get there. Finally,
he stopped and let me down. Then he dropped my pack sack. And I could hear the cans rattle and I heard chatter. Like, some kind of talk I did not understand. The ground was sloping, so he let go of the sleeping bag. I rolled downhill. I got my head out and got some air. I tried to straighten my legs and crawl out, but my legs were numb. It was still dark. I could not see what my captors looked like. I tried to massage my legs to get some life in them and get my shoes on. I could hear now it was at least 4 of them. They were standing around me and continuously chattering. I had never heard of Sasquatch before. The Indian told me about them, but I knew I was right amongst them. But how to get away from them? That was another question. I got to see the outline of them as it got to be a bit lighter, though the sky was still cloudy, and it looked like rain. Like, I love how, yeah, in fact, there was a slight sprinkle. He's given us the weather report. Like, this is important. You're standing here, this is groundbreaking.
You can see that it's raining, but you can't see...
As, like, you know, the apple falls on Newton's head. Mm-hmm. Like, these, like, I'm trying to think of these monumental parts. This is, like, contact with a new species, and he's, like, giving us, like, we fucking care if it's raining.
It's raining, yeah.
This guy's a douchebag. I now had circulation in my legs, but my left foot was still very sore on top where it had been resting on the hobnail boots. I got my boots out of the sleeping bag and tried to stand up. I found that I was wobbly on my feet, but I had a good hold on them. I asked, "What do you fellows want with me?" Only some more chatter. It was growing lighter, and I could see them quite clearly. I could make out 4 forms of 4 people. 2 big and 2 little ones. They were all covered with hair and no clothes. I could now make out mountains all around me. I looked at my watch. It was 4:25 a.m. It was getting lighter, and now I could see the people clearly. Notice how he called them people. That's interesting.
Yeah.
They looked like a family. Old man, old lady, 2 young ones, a boy and a girl. The boy and the girl seemed to be scared of me. The old lady did not seem too pleased about what the old man had dragged home. But the old man was waving his arms and telling them all what he had on his mind. They all let me be then. They all left me be.
Things never change.
Yeah.
The wife is already bitching at the man.
That is so sexist of you.
No, it's
Is
pretty
that
accurate.
how you want your... If you had a daughter, is that how you... The world...
That's just how it works
An
down
off-colored, like... That's how it works. Sex misogyny?
Yeah,
that's how it works?
No, but, like, women down here... Like, it's more matriarchal. I know that I noticed. The Bible and, like, everything says that a man should be respected, but you really get into a Southerner's household, and the woman's in charge. She's doing the finances, she's cooking, like, her job is the home, and the second the man gets off from work, he is in her domain.
In other words,
so
the man is supposed to be a slave and do whatever the woman wants. What if his passion is having like a pet human and like this is what he wanted?
I'm sure he's making his argument for 100%, but you know, she's probably sitting there like, great, now you've exposed us, he's gonna go back into town, you gotta kill that thing. And he's like, no, look, it can hunt, it can get stuff, it could help around the house, I'll house train it. I'm empathizing with this family of 4 Sasquatches.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Absolutely. Do you see a parallel between the Sasquatch family dynamic and your family dynamic?
Growing up, that's how it was, yeah.
Okay. They all left him alone. I had my compass and my prospecting glass on strings around my neck. I think that's a kind of a...
Is it what the jewelers use to see?
Maybe. I think it's more like a small telescope. I could be wrong. The compass is in my left-hand shirt pocket and my glass in my right-hand pocket. Like this is... One tried to reason our location and where I was. I could now see that I was in a very small valley or basin, about 8 to 10 acres, surrounded by high mountains in southeast side. There was a V-shaped opening about 8 feet wide, the bottom. He goes on and on and on.
This is very detailed. This is starting to sound like J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, he's very detailed.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this about this.
It's the 8-acre valley.
I'm gonna skip to the end of this. He never can tell you where he was. Yeah. He gives a very detailed account of where he was, but like he can't point it on a map.
There.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that I'm not gonna skip that because that's just him talking about it. But what he does say is he couldn't get out because the old man was sitting near the opening of the cave. He was in a cave. I don't think I mentioned that.
Yeah.
And he's just there. It's like this is his life now. He's a pet. I moved my belongings up close to the west wall. There were 2 small cypress trees there, and this will do for a shelter for the time being, until I find out what these people want from me, and how to get away from them. I emptied out my pack sack to see what I had left in the line of food. All my canned meat and my vegetables were intact, and I had a can of coffee. I had 1 can of coffee. Also 3 small cans of milk, 2 packages of Rye King hardtack, and butter sealer half full of butter. But my prunes and macaroni were missing. Also, my full box of shells for my rifle. Only a few shots in that rifle. I had my sheath knife, but my prostating pick was missing. He left it in the tree. He told us this. He had a safety box full of about a dozen matches. He could start a fire with his prospecting glass. He's talking about how awesome he is. He can cook hot coffee. Literally, he's like, this is literally what he's like talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
He's
cook.
like, I can fix food. I'll be okay, technically.
But he's talking about how he cooks coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good look over the valley where I was, but the boy and the girl were always watching me from behind some juniper bush. I decided there must be some water around here. The ground was leaning towards the opening in the wall. There must be water at the upper end of the valley. All my utensils were left in the light. I opened my coffee tin, emptied the coffee in a dish towel, and tied it to a metal strip so he's making coffee. He took his rifle and the can and went looking for water. Right at the head under the cliff, there was a lovely spring. I got a drink. And the young boy was looking over my belongings, so the kid was like going through his stuff.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to me that for what was going on, he just isn't even talking about. He's just like worried about making coffee.
Well, I mean, as a avid coffee drinker, I'm sure he's already gone through it.
Is that what was going on in Ostman's head? Like, he's like, I need a cup to get through this
probably.
bullshit. Fuck this.
He's probably got a headache. His foot hurts. He's like, well, if I run, this will get me.
Kidnapped by fucking Sasquatch.
It'll get him mad. Like, he's probably just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to brew some coffee and see what they do.
On my way back, I noticed that these people were sleeping on the east side of which would have been a great time to shoot them.
Yeah, or leave.
On the east wall of this valley was a shelf in the mountainside with overhanging rock looking something like a big undercut. Oh, he's describing the cave. This is exhausting. The floor was covered with lots of dry moss, and they had some narrow strips of cedar bark packed with dry mutts as blankets. They looked very practical and warm, with no need of washing. The first day, not much happened. I had to eat my food cold. The young fellow was coming nearer to me, and seemed more curious of me. My 1 snuff box was empty, so I laid it towards him. That's a weird word. When he saw it coming, he sprang back up quick as a cat and grabbed it. He went over to his sister and showed it to her. They found out how to open it and close it. They spent a long time playing with it. He then trotted over to the old man and showed him. They had a long chatter. Have you ever heard of the Sierra Sounds?
No.
That might be something we talk about later.
Okay.
Yes.
So he's kind of entertaining them to a degree. He understands the predicament he's in. I mean, if you get abducted, you most of the time want to play nice so that nothing happens back to you.
You know what I heard happens if you abduct? Have you ever heard of a feces fetish?
Yeah.
That's quite rare. The odds of you getting abducted by someone who has that fetish is rare.
Okay.
So, the most tactical thing you could do is shit your pants when you're abducted.
Yeah.
Just to put them through it. You know, make them change you.
Be as unappealing as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
just be a nuisance.
Yeah. I'm sure that would work with people, but I feel like
they might have a feces fetish.
I don't think the fetish exactly, but they more like, they don't wear clothes. So they'd probably be like, oh, damn it, the puppy shit itself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they'd be like, okay, let's clean it up.
Maybe that's why dogs do that, to get back at you.
Possibly.
You know,
who knows what goes on in their little maniac
You ever
minds.
hear of, I think it's called infantilism?
No.
It's a fetish. It's like adult baby fetish. Where they like want to wear
You've told
diapers.
me about this, yeah.
You know what? One time when I was hanging out with my friend Caleb, he came up to me and he's like, Joseph, you know how we were talking about adult babies? I said, yeah. He said, I'm one of them. I said, really? You like that? He's like, yeah. I'm into that.
Oh my God.
I like shitting my pants. I don't think you should laugh. This is like, it's a lifestyle. We could talk about that someday on the podcast. It's a whole life. I was really proud of him.
If you shit your pants for a lifestyle, I will laugh.
He likes to be changed. He said, he told me, he's like, the most intimate thing someone could do is change me. That's what he wants. He's looking for that person. That's why he's never had a girlfriend. What are we talking about?
Bigfoot, I thought.
Okay, so he's standing there, he's hanging out with these Bigfoot, and the next morning, he made up his mind to leave the place. If I had to shoot my way out, I would. I could not stay much longer. I had only enough grub to last me till I go back to the Toblet Inlet. I did not know the direction, but I would go downhill, and he's talking about how he's trying, like, the direction. He's going to go. Mm-hmm. He rolled up the sleeping bag, put it inside the sack, he packed all the shit up, made it very obvious he was leaving, I guess. Then, the old man got up, held up his hands as though he would push me back. This fucking Bigfoot is like a linebacker, like,
Yeah.
Go inside. No.
You can't go there.
Yeah. I pointed to the opening. I wanted to go out. But he stood there, pushing towards me, and said something that sounded like, Soka, Soka. I backed up to about 60 feet. Wow, that must have been a big cave.
Yeah.
I did not want to be too close. I thought if I had to shoot my way out. I didn't want to be too close if I had to shoot my way out. A 30-30 might not have much effect on this fellow. It might have made him mad. I only had 6 shells, so I decided to wait. There must be a better way than killing him. There must be a better way than killing him in order to get out of here. Yeah, wait till he's asleep and shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
I went back to my little campsite to figure out some other way to get out of here. It's then this part of the story where he just becomes like the smartest man in the world. He starts like devising plans. Mm. I could make friends with the young fellow or the girl. They could help me. If only I could talk to them. Then I thought of a fellow who saved himself from a mad bull by blinding him with the snuff in his eyes. You know what snuff is?
Yeah.
Of course you do. You're a Southerner. I imagine like Peepaw,
Meemaw,
and their snuff around Christmas. Like, give my snuff.
No, Meemaw did snuff.
No,
yeah.
Meemaw did snuff.
Yeah, she's had to quit. She got, shit in her jaw, but
it's terrible for you.
Yeah.
But how will I get near enough to this fellow to put snuff in his eyes? So I decided next time I'd give the young fellow my snuff box to leave a few grains of snuff in it. He might give the old man a taste of it. But the question is, in what direction should I go? He then talks about, again, I'm not going to read this. It's like 4 paragraphs. Talking about
logistics of how he's getting out.
It's very detailed. He's 25 miles, 3 hours, which I guess he's doing this to try to add credibility to his... Mm-hmm. The following day, I did not see the old lady till about 4 p.m. She came home with her arms full of grass and twigs of all kinds of spruce and hemlock, as well as some kind of nuts that grow on the ground. I have seen lots of them in Vancouver Island. The young fellow went up to the mountain to the east every day. He could climb better than any mountain goat. He picked some kind of grass with long, sweet roots. He gave me some one day. They tasted very sweet. I gave him another snuff box with about a teaspoon of snuff in it. He tasted it and then went up to the old man. He licked it with his tongue. They had a long chat. I made a dipper from a small milk can. I made many dippers. You can use them for pot. Now he's talking about how he makes dippers. What the fuck? Then cut a limb in the tree, blah, blah, blah. Well, what is he talking about? He's making some kind of pail, like some container. Mm-hmm. It's so long, man. I threw one over to the young fellow. He made it with this milk can that was playing near the camp. He picked it up and looked at it, then went to the old man and showed it to him. They had a long chatter, then he came to me and pointed at the dipper, then at his sister. I could see that he wanted one for her, too. I had other peas and carrots, so I made one for his sister. He was standing only 8 feet from me. When I made the dipper, I dipped it in the water and drank it. So he's making, like, cups and showing him, like, this is how you drink. He was very pleased, and he almost smiled at me. Then I took out some chew of snuff, smacked my lips, said, "That's good." So I kind of skipped that, but he was describing how he was weaving a stick into this fucking can and making this long thing. Like, who the fuck cares about your spit cup? Like,
yeah. So he's trying to like teach them how to basically get a nicotine addiction, so they will pass out or get sick.
Them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And depending on how much this the kid is taking, if the old man or however he's describing him, if he ends up taking enough, it's going to put him out. And I think that's like his plan. He's like showing them, hey, I can eat this, I can do this, you can too. But he's got a tolerance they don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
The young fellow pointed to the old man, said something like, "Ook!" I got the idea that the old man likes snuff. Where would he get snuff? And the young fellow wanted a box for the old man. I shook my head and motioned with my hands for the old man to come to me. I did not think the young fellow understood what I meant. He went to his sister and gave her the dipper I made for her. They did not come near me again that day. I had now been there 6 days, but I was sure I was making progress. If only I could get the old man to come over to me, get him to eat a full box of snuff, that would kill him for sure. And that way kill himself. I wouldn't be guilty of murder.
Okay. I see the thought, because like
he I'm wouldn't sure be. That's what he's worried about. Killing this monster.
Well, maybe not about killing him, but more like they would see him kill him and then kill him in turn. Yeah. Because I mean, he still has the old lady to look out for.
Well, it's funny you say that. It's the next line. The old lady was a meek old thing. So this was like The young fellow was by this point quite friendly. The girl would not hurt anybody. Her chest was flat like the boys. No development like young ladies. Oh. So this tells me a lot about Ostman's psychology. Yeah. He was checking the old lady out the whole time he was there.
I'm not surprised.
He know that. He would try it.
He totally would.
A lot of people would.
Yeah.
I happen to have met a woman at a convention.
What are you about to tell me?
She gets visits of the most carnal nature from Sasquatch. She was happy to talk about it.
Oh, I'm sure. Was she white?
I don't know why that matters.
Because 1 in 4 white women fuck their dogs.
Racism is there in you? Where does this come from? What are you talking? Are you implying, like, what are you implying
I'm implying there's something wrong.
With white people.
With white people.
No, this woman was shit serious.
Oh my God.
She said she was fucking Bigfoot.
I did talk to somebody once who said that they had a poltergeist in their house that would fuck them, like the movie. Yeah. So.
But she's with a straight face. She also told me about mind speak. And how Bigfoot communicates telepathically.
That doesn't seem to be his stance.
It doesn't seem like that's going on with Ostman.
Yeah.
So the girl, the one Sasquatch didn't have any boobies. I am sure if I could get the old man out of the way, I could easily have brought this girl out with me to civilization. Oh, wow.
Okay, that's bad. I mean, I know in the context of the time that this was written, older men would marry young women. That
is very ironic. You should say that.
I mean, they still do it to this day.
There's a massive rabbit hole about Sasquatch that I can't go down right now. Yeah. But there is a very documented case of something like this. We got to save it for another day. Okay. I will tell you that story one day. Jesus. We do a sequel to this one. This is good, right? I didn't want to just talk about Bigfoot and read the definition. I like telling the stories. Yeah.
I think we should read at least the definition just so, like, people, I mean, like, yes.
You don't think people know it? Okay, let's read the definition. I guess there's probably some, like...
I'm sure there's some hole-in-the-wall person who hasn't run across it.
Oh, Jesus. It's a hairy human myth. There's the we'll do that later. Oh, my God.
So he must have kidnapped this girl.
He was going to. Yeah. But what good would that have been? I would have to keep her in the cage for public display. I don't think we have any right to force our way of life onto other people, and I don't think they would like it. So, he had to cover his ass up. Yeah. Whatever. The young fellow may have been 11 or 18 years old and about 7 feet tall, 300 pounds. His chest was 55 inches. His waist was about 36. It's quite a big guy.
Very detailed again.
Well, the interesting thing about this, I don't want to get like this, but I used to work in literature. Yeah. When you're telling a story, this is the first, you say this when you first introduce the creatures. You don't describe them at the end of the story. It doesn't make any sense for him to do. It's really aggravating. I hate this story. Yeah. I hate that you're making me read it. He had wide jaws, narrow forehead, slanted upwards, round back and forth 5 or 6 inches off his forehead. The hair on his head was about 6 inches long. The hair on the rest of his body was short and thick. The woman's hair on her forehead had upward turned like some women have. They call it bangs, so the one had bangs. She went and got her hair did at the salon. You never believe what my husband brought home this time, girls.
Oh, if that was how their society worked, it was 100%. She went, like, when she left for the day, she was going right to her girlfriends. Yeah. Like, he brought in this mangy Sasquatch that couldn't speak our language.
It's funny. Yeah, probably does that after she goes to the dentist. Mm. They have to be kept alive somehow.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the old lady could have been between 40 or 70. She weighed about 500-600 pounds. She had wide hips and a goose-like walks. She was not built for beauty or speed. Some of those lovable brassiers and wow. Oh, wow.
Damn.
Some of those lovable brassiers and uplifts would have been great improvement to her look and figure. I told you. This man's eye teeth were longer than the rest of his teeth. They were called tusks. So he's saying the one Sasquatch had tusk. That's interesting.
Okay.
He must have been near 8 feet tall. That's interesting because again, cherry picking, they never put this part I've never heard.
Yeah.
Because sorry, I dropped something. When, like, hearing the story, when recounting it, I don't hear of this part. When this was told to me, they didn't mention that Albert Ostman was a horny weirdo.
Yeah.
He was big barrel chested, hump on his back, powerful shoulders. Basically, it looked like a Sasquatch. You know what a Sasquatch looks like?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he had 30-inch neck. He goes on and on and on. He's talking about how the boy liked to do somersaults. His favorite position was take his hands and his feet, balance on his rump, and then bounce forward and roll. He's just talking about how they play. But what do they want with me? They must understand I cannot stay here indefinitely. I will soon have to make a break for freedom. Not that I was mistreated in any way. One consolation was that the old man was coming closer each day and was very interested in my snuff. One morning after I had my breakfast, both the old man and the boy came and sat down only 10 feet from me. This morning I made coffee, and I had saved up all dry branches and found I had some dry moss and used the labels. So he started a fire with moss. I got my coffee pot boiling, and it was strong coffee too, and the aroma from the boiling coffee was what brought them over. I was eating hardtack with plenty of butter on it and sipping coffee, and it sure tasted good. I was smacking my lips, pretending it was better than it really was.
Okay, so he's really trying to lure him in at this point.
This guy's a mastermind. I set the can down that was about half full. I intended to warm it up. I pulled out a box of the snuff and took a big chew. Before I had time to close the box, the old man reached for it. I was afraid he would waste it, and only had 2 more boxes, so I held onto the box, intending for him to take a pinch like he had just done, like I had just done. Mm-hmm. So he's like, "Don't take all this, you maniac."
Yeah.
Instead, he grabbed the box and emptied it into its mouth, swallowed it in one gulp. Then he licked the box inside with his tongue. So he did it.
He's about to get sick.
After a few minutes, his eyes began to roll over in his head, and he was looking straight up. I could see he was sick. Then he grabbed my coffee can that was quite cold by this time. He emptied it into his mouth, grounds and all. That did no good. He stuck his head between his legs and rolled forward a few times away from me. Then he began to squeal like a stuck pig. I grabbed my rifle and said to myself, "This is it. If he comes for me, I will shoot him plumb between the eyes."
Oh, wow. He uses plum?
Yep. It's literally spelled the way it is.
Yeah.
Like the P-L-U-M-B. Yeah, it's spelled like that.
It's just, that's a lot of Appalachian people still use plum, so that just...
He is Canadian. I think he's actually like Austrian too or something. But,
well, Appalachian English is derivative of Old English, so yeah, it makes sense.
But he started for the spring, the water that he had talked about.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted water. I packed my sleeping bag in my pack sack with a few cans I had left. The younger fellow ran over to his mother, then she began to squeal. I started for the opening in the wall, and I just made it. The old lady was right behind me. I fired one shot at the rock over my head. Oh. I guess she had never seen a rifle before. She turned and ran inside the wall. I injected another shell in the barrel, so it was a single barrel, in the barrel of my rifle and started downhill, looking back over my shoulder every so often to see if they were coming. I was in a canyon, and good traveling made fast time. Must have been 3 miles in some world record time. I came to a turn in the canyon, and I had the sun on my left. That meant I was going south, and the canyon turned west. I decided to climb the ridge, blah, 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 and I gotta be honest with you, nothing else happens. He just runs away. As he's running, he follows a creek. His feet were sore. About 2 hours, I got down the heavy timber and sat down to rest. I could hear a motor running hard at times, then I didn't stop. I listened for a while and decided the sound was a gas donkey. Someone was logging in the neighborhood. I told them I was a prospector and I was lost. I did not like to tell them that I had kidnapped by Sasquatch. As if I had told them that, they would have probably said, he is crazy too. The following day, I went down to the camp on Salmon Arm Branch of Selsiet Inlet. From there, I got the Union boat back to Vancouver. That was the last prospecting trip. That was my last prospecting trip, and the only experience with what is known as Sasquatches. I know that in 1924, there were 4 Sasquatches living. It might only be 2 now. The old man and the old lady might be dead by this time. So this happened in 1924.
Okay.
That's why it's written like shit.
Makes sense. Okay, so most likely what's happened to the poor old man is that he took all that snuff, it started to hit his head, he probably got a headache from how hard the nicotine hit, and then he fucking downs the coffee, which is also an upper. So this poor thing, who's never had either of these in this high amount, is probably getting a migraine, doesn't know what to do, and is like, water always fixes things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad he made it out so that this would get out, because this story, whether it's true or not, whether he's crazy or not, is wild in and of itself. And the fact that he was looking at the mom and the daughter the whole time is absolutely batshit. But
yeah,
it seems like, you know, when someone lies and they tell so many details to make their lie more, I guess, believable.
Yes.
This feels like the most elaborate lie. He took maybe the part where he was getting into the land and the old native who was taking him in possibly could have told him that story. And then he's like, you know what would be good? Good publicity. Like, let me just make up this story now that I know what it is.
It's funny you should say that. Because a lot of people have said virtually what you, even people who believe in Bigfoot, Sasquatch creature, have said the same thing you just said. It's too detailed to be real.
Yeah.
People complained about this. The story I don't think was published until like 1960s. It says 1957 here. He waited 30 years to tell anyone. He swore until his grave that it was real, though. Whenever he was asked, he told the same story to a T over and over again.
Okay.
The details are very elaborate. There's a lot of lapse in judgment of, you know, why would he talk about the female Sasquatch? I'm just absorbing it.
Yeah. I think, okay, if he did stick to his story and it was elaborate and this detail-oriented as every time, you could say that, yeah, he could have been in shock, and when you're in shock, you do take in more information, especially if, like, in a hostage situation, you are taking information in constantly. So, yeah, he could have been traumatized and had PTSD and constantly relived it and knew it by heart, but it also could have been he heard this spooky story from this guy, was out there by himself for a while, and could have, I mean, maybe not hallucinated the whole thing, but he definitely, it seems like the details, like the tusks that are never mentioned in any other media about Sasquatches, the, I guess, chatter. I haven't heard about their chattering, but you seem to know more about it.
Oh, yeah, they have a language.
Oh.
Sorry, I was looking at something.
Yeah.
I had a, I don't want to talk about, I had another story that was around this time I wanted to regale. We have to stay on topic. We have to stay on brand. But there is a gentleman, Roger Moorhead, who's in more recent times has recorded what they call Sasquatch language.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting. You seem like you want to hear it.
I do, but do you want to tell me the other
I'm
very
trying to
famous
decide
story
that.
first.
I'm trying to decide because it's similar to this one, and I don't. To be fair, I don't have my wits about me. I'd have to look into Moorhead more. So I'm glad I got your thoughts on that. But you said Mima likes snuff.
Yeah, Mama likes snuff.
Has Mima ever let you sample her snuff?
Yeah.
When you were like, have you ever put a lot of it in your mouth?
Yeah, I got really sick.
So you have
second time I
first-hand
tried it.
experience. This is insane.
Yeah, I got a migraine instantly.
And you know what he went through.
Yeah. Well, not to the same extent. I didn't eat the whole box of it, but... So, okay, I used to play softball, and I was really good at catching the ball and throwing it to wherever it needed to. My aim was decent for a child.
Yeah.
And I played softball at, like, about the age that the Little League is playing right now, the world title. About 11 and 12 is when I played softball. And I won one of the games. I had made like 3 deciding catches that turned over the inning in our favor. And then I also hit the ball with the bat. Now, I was good at throwing. I was really bad at hitting. I couldn't time my bat movement with the ball coming towards me very easily. If you've ever watched softball, the pitch is totally different from a baseball pitch. So that just really, like, it was hard for me to time it.
Okay.
But I had hit the ball and gotten around the bases, made it home. And then when it turned into our inning, I had caught the ball by the very mitt, like the very end of my mitt, and had gotten out a player and had made a deciding, basically it's what turned the game over on us, and we ended up winning the game because I gotten that person out. And after them, there were just like some poor hitters, it's like myself. So after that game, Mama was really proud of me, and she didn't call it snuff. She called it brownie. Do you want some brownie? And, you know, as a kid, you're like, of course I want a brownie. Yeah, give me some.
Yeah.
So because I had played so well in that game, she had given me a pinch, just like that guy was taking a pinch and putting it in his lip.
Yeah.
She described it. She said, hey, don't swallow this. Here's a spitter. Pinch it. Put it in your lip right here. I was like 11 or 12 at this point. So I took a decently sized pinch, put it in my lip. My papa was the one driving me home, her husband. So she got in her car, left. So she told me how to use it, didn't tell me what it was going to do. As we're driving home, my papa was a slow driver. He's cautious. He drives an old truck, so he needs time to brake. So it wasn't like he was driving crazy or nothing.
Right.
Wasn't taking the wheel and jerking it. But I started to get car sick really quick. And I'm not a car sick person. So I kind of was like, I don't feel so good. So you kind of get nausea the first time you try snuff. You get like queasy. And then I spit it all out in the spitter. I just got the rest of it out. And there's probably still some in my teeth or whatever. But I just spit the rest of it out and then just let the effects take hold. You know when you get like a stress headache and it's like right behind your eyes and it kind of goes on the top of your head? Same thing. It started at the top of my head, behind my eyes. It started to hurt. And then it started crawling up the top of my head. So the very top, if you were like looking at a baby, it's where the soft spot is where that ended. And it was just like light was hurting my eyes. Sounds were too loud. Like it was like I was put into fight or flight mode.
Wow.
So that's probably what he was going through, but at a more intense
We
trip.
are truly privileged to have this insight on the Albert Ostman story. I was not expecting this. It was not scripted.
You didn't know I had done snuff before?
An elderly woman giving a child chewing tobacco, snuff, or whatever it is. Only here will you receive these kind of stories on the podcast of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Only here will you get this kind of content.
But I didn't throw up. So they thought, oh, wow, she's a hard ass. She's badass. And a couple games later, like I think 3 or 4 games later, we had won again. And Memo asked me if I wanted brownie. And as a kid, you want, you're constantly like, yes, but you constantly, as a kid, you're wanting to.
Do you still do it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Only once in a while.
No, I really don't like it. It gets in your teeth. It's loose. It's just like, other dip. It's very loose, and I don't like it.
I know you think I'm just square old Joseph.
Yeah.
Never would hurt a fly. But I used to be quite the internet troll back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite pastimes was trolling dipping channels. There were young kids, some of them were like 16, who reviewed dip. I was a bit of a bandit on those channels. I'd get them pretty riled up.
Yeah, I could have turned into
As
that
a
kid.
result, I know a lot about dip.
Yeah.
Anyways.
She had the wintergreen.
The winter, that's
that
popular.
flavor,
That and the Tutti
popular.
Frutti is pretty favorite.
Yeah. So, and it wasn't like grizzly or anything. It was like, she had it in a bag. And
yeah, Meemaw just carried her dip around.
Yeah, and like
snow.
you just had like a rubber band that you tied it off with, make sure none of it came out. So
How rustic.
second game where I won a couple of deciding pitches and stuff, hit the ball a few times. It was, I mean, when I say like I didn't hit the ball ever, I didn't hit the ball ever. So that's probably why she gave it to me, is because I actually did end up hitting the ball in a game. The second time though, she was driving me home. She's got the newer car, so she's driving a little bit more recklessly than Papa was.
Yeah.
And I had gotten so severely sick in the car. Like, rolled the window down, throwing up on the side of the road, sick in the car. And that was when I decided I didn't want Brownie anymore.
Your body can't, when you're small, your body can't handle narcotics and drugs and things. That's why there's a drinking age. So it probably was too much for your delicate
system. More than likely. And she immediately was like, okay, you don't have to, if I offer you this, or if anyone offers you
if
this,
I offer you this,
you don't have to have this.
It's like she's talking to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like if I offer you the, Jesus
you can
Christ.
say no. Yeah. So I'm like,
God.
So then afterwards, it was actually a decent season. I almost caught hypothermia that season, but I never said yes to her offer for Brownie ever again.
What is this, softball?
Softball, yeah.
That's that thing where you throw a ball and hit it with the stick.
Yeah.
So, I think we could both agree that Meemaw and Peepaw have a lot to answer for, to the other things that are not going to be mentioned. So can we get them on the podcast to where I could kind of get the scoop? What are you doing giving children tobacco? And I want to read her this. I'm like, this guy tried to assassinate a Bigfoot with this tobacco, and here you are
giving it to your grandchild. Yeah. We can try to get them on the show. They honestly, it might be a headache. I could call them. I want them. I
don't want them together. I don't want them because they'll collaborate. I want to hear. Yeah. I want to present this like a good thing.
Yeah, I could get them on the show, but I guarantee you it would be. You would get annoyed fairly quickly.
It can't be worse than having you on. So,
wow.
Do you know what an ape's penis looks like?
No.
I do. You've never seen the gorilla penis or a chimpanzee's penis?
No, and I don't go on the internet and search for those things.
Why do you think that no one ever sees Bigfoot's penis?
Hold on. Hair?
One of my Tinder bitches is texting me.
Ooh.
Speaking of Sasquatch, Jesus Christ. What is this? Is this a woman?
Wait, we were just talking about Sasquatch and she contacted you? Is it the old lady?
Anyways.
She's like, I heard you were talking about me.
It's almost like a lot of these pictures of Bigfoot are costumes that don't have penises.
Yeah.
If I ever dressed up like Bigfoot, I would include a strap-on.
Just to make it more authentic.
They would remember.
Yeah. I could see you doing that.
Yeah.
I feel like the way he described their hairy bodies, that maybe it's covered. Because even though they don't wear clothes, it's covered.
Well, Bigfoot, oh God. So apes do have unusual penises that are not outwardly visible. They have to get into a certain position for you to see the penises. I could show you, but I don't think you want to see.
Yeah.
They're very they're very strange looking. Mm-hmm. They're almost it's like a cross between a human being. You've seen a penis, right?
Yeah.
It's a cross between almost a dog and a human penis. It's kind of bizarre looking.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not normal looking.
They have balls, right?
Yes. They're more tight to the body.
Okay.
They don't swing low, as they say in the rap community. Mm-hmm. They just kind of stick. If you're a dude and it's cold you go like walking outside in the snow when you're naked.
Yeah.
You know, you're like chasing a dude on a horse. Your balls might cling to your body more. That's like apes kind of look like.
Kind of sounded like lived in, but okay.
No, that's like that story you told me. There was a naked man going, "Hey,
oh,
hey."
Yeah. The Skinwalker. Well,
Too high on snuff to remember.
Mm.
I have another story here. Do you think we have time? We're at an hour and 40.
Are we?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe.
We took a short break and we were looking at it. And we've been talking for quite a long time. We were going to read another story about a gentleman named Musalat Harry who had another intimate encounter with Sasquatch. But the tale of Albert Ostman proved to be so immense and detailed, almost on an autistic level of detailed. You know, I have 12 matches. I have 6 bullets. He was so thorough in his recounting of the story.
Yeah, I went back 60 feet.
Yeah, the mountain was approximately 89 miles away, and I had to turn. He was just so precise. I got to be honest, it just took it out of me. And what I'm saying is this has gone on too long, and I would like to reserve that story for perhaps another day. You know, Bigfoot is never going to be found. And since he's never going to be found, it's always going to be interesting. And I'm sure that we can revisit this subject many, many times and discuss it for future episodes. I will say one more thing. What would you do? I'll ask you first. What would you do if you saw Bigfoot?
Great question. Run would be the knee-jerk reaction, but that might prove futile. So I don't know. I guess like how I'd react to a bear, just make a bunch of noise and seem crazy.
Would you
so
tell
leave
anyone?
Me alone?
What would you do? Would you go to the press? Would you write a story? Because this guy went to the press. He wrote this.
No, most people. I think it's the market's flooded. I think if I went to the press and said I saw Bigfoot, they wouldn't take me seriously.
Mm-hmm. Me neither.
Not like they did back in 1923. But I feel like I don't know. I would just try to survive. I wouldn't even be worried about telling anybody at that point, or even afterwards. I'd just be like, I can't believe I got out of there. If I did.
If I saw Bigfoot, I wouldn't tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Not even if I had a podcast with an audience. I would never tell a soul.
Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, and act like I didn't believe in him.
Well, I mean...
Anyways, no, we're done. Thank you for listening to this episode of a podcast. What are we calling it? A Doom?
No.
That's that one that got stolen
Doom.
from me by those people who sound and act. Anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of Fuck! Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast for Doom, of this podcast that you... Say it.
Are you having a stroke?
Yeah, I think I am.
Thank you for listening to the podcast of Doom. Tune in next time.
Yes, thank you. And do you have any? We have any social media?
We have an Instagram and a Facebook.
What's
and
it
a
called?
YouTube. Podcast of Doom.
Yes.
Podcast of Doom.
Yes. Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Yes. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Make the shadows come and go. Looking for something they thought they'd find on the Ferny Creek Forest Road. 3 of them went looking things they shouldn't see. Anymore, I just don't know, 'cause they all went with me. No one knows that they found him. Time to time I see his tracks out there in the Cascades, but none of them ever made it back.